Hello and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome. We are doing another fanfiction review. This time, what is it? I completely forgot about the title. They came from somewhere else. That's what it was. A JFic fanfic, which I meant to do like a while ago, but then I got sucked down the rabbit hole of reading more JFic fanfiction, so I didn't end up doing it. But so now I'm doing it. They came from somewhere else. This is like an aftermath of after everything's happened, right? Jayce and Viktor live. Oh my god. This is like this is a short thing. It's like 2 chapters, so it's not really long or anything. But it's so, oh my god, I love it. It's just them trying to basically move on. And the first chapter is from we meet this Tyler, right? It's from his point of view. We're introduced to him, and he's a journalist. I will say, because it's from his point of view, he introduces himself as like it's almost like an innocent way of like, I've always been told I'm very curious, like, oh, and it's gonna come back to bite him in the ass one day, and it does. But it's like almost like an innocent way it's like portrayed, and as you kind of read on, you learn it's not like, oh, it's not innocent. Like he's not. Oh, he's curious. Like no, he's beyond. Like he's nosy and he's like obsessive. Like as you go to read on, it's like, oh, what is wrong with you? So he's a journalist, and so we learned that he frequently visits the cafe because plenty of people gossip there, and he just writes down everything he can. So we already kind of get to see like, okay, he's kind of a bit nosy, right? Because he's just sitting in the cafe listening to other people and writing it down. And it's like, you doing, man? But so then obviously Jayce and Viktor, because like they're new to the town, and everyone who's ever met them, they have nothing but nice things to say. But Tyler, he's curious because he's like, well, what are they really like? What are they? Like something has to be there because sure, of course there has to be. So he's asking around like immediately. He starts asking about them, and everyone's like, no, he's great. He's like fine. All of them are. And but was it a flower shop? No, it wasn't a flower shop. I don't know. He asked some of the girls. It's like, oh, there was. I think it was a store. They're like, oh, there was an incident that happened with like Felix, and it's like, oh, what happened? It's like, oh, well, Jayce got like got a little rough with Felix. It's like, ooh, tell me more. Like almost immediately, like you could kind of see where his mind could go, even without even like really having to like try all that hard to like read into it. But they explain like, oh, Felix was harassing Viktor, and like Jayce was just immediately like there, like so that's what happened, right? And they're describing how like, oh, Viktor, like, oh, he's asleep but not all there. It's very clear he's kind of like, because he has bandages around him, so like, oh, it's very clear he's been through something. They both have, and like, like they're still traumatized from it. And so Tyler kind of walks away from that incident when like, okay, well, so you have Jayce who's like possessive and like maybe like clearly overprotective, and then Viktor who's like very clear traumatized boyfriend. It's like, oh no, like you kind of really don't like the how he's starting to go with where his mind is going, and he just continues to ask around, like, because like this is like he set his sights on them, and this is now like his story. So he's like, like this is now like his story, like, and he asks around, and it's like, oh, what are they running? Like, what are they running from? Because it's like, oh, it's like, well, just like you have plenty of people telling him, it's like, leave it alone. Like, it's who cares, right? Because they're not really like they're not causing trouble, not really bad. Like they're sweet people. And this is where we first start to see like, oh, he's really like Tyler's really like not. You got issues, right? Because he breaks into like the registry to see their papers, and it's like, what is wrong with you? Like he breaks in because he wants to see their paper, like where they come from, where's their address, like what is their like, and it's like, what is wrong with you? And obviously all of it's like redacted, right? No last names, no nothing, right? All of it's like their reasoning for being there too, and their reasoning, like it falls under like a section. I'm not gonna say it's numbers. Okay, I don't care. I'm not gonna say it's numbers. Where two reasons why is either they're on the run for something because, they're seeking asylum basically, right? Or that they are hiding, like they're hiding something, right? And so, they're like clearly like they're shady people. And Tyler immediately jumps to that instead of, I don't know, maybe they're just seeking asylum. But no, he jumps to that. It's like they have to be like shady, terrible people, and like this is, so he's thinking like, okay, so I just have to gather more clues, evidence. It's like, ugh. So Tyler's first thought, which is like a pattern, it shows like, oh, this is like a great story, right? And so his boss gets on him because it's like, what are you doing writing a story about these two? Like, leave, like, like, there's nothing there, right? And Tyler, like, he obviously argues. It's like, no, because again, under the little clause thing, it's like, he's like, oh, they could be, they could be criminals. So he like immediately like cites that little stupid clause, right, to his boss, being like, well, they could be on the run because like in whatever country they come from, the criminals did something and whatever, they face death penalty, right? And his boss is like so over it because he's just like, yeah, well, also under that clause is like people seeking asylum, which is very likely what they're doing. But Tyler immediately jumped to like, they're criminals, they have to be, right? So his boss is already over it and just telling him like, just look for another story because there's nothing here. Don't dig deep into it. And then he tries to like, because he's like arguing, he's like trying to like, he brings up the incident with Felix. It's like, oh, Jayce is clearly a violent man. He assaulted Felix and blah blah. But like even when the situation was explained to him, because the girls explained to him, right, that Felix had harassed, like everyone knows about it. Even the boss was like, Felix harassed him, whatever. Like what are we like, what are we doing here? But he's like, if I don't do like, we're all gonna pay the price. Like, oh, there's something clearly up with him, and it's also just like, just let it go because nothing good is gonna come from this, right? It's like, which I find interesting. He even said like, it's interesting that he even said that. He's like, we're all gonna pay the price if, like, as if like he cares, right? And he contradicts himself because I mean, he'll never say it out loud because out loud he'll say, like he'll clearly kind of frame it as if he's doing this to like because he cares for like the townspeople. But he'll admit it to himself when it shows like it's him, like he's alone, that he just thinks this is an interesting story. Like he doesn't care. And like that's the pattern that we see throughout this, is that he doesn't even look at people like they're people. He just sees them as stories. Like, okay, this is like, oh, this be like my next story. You're my next story. Like, oh, this is a training you do. And it doesn't really care who ends up getting hurt in the crossfire because it's like, what's the next big story that he can make? That's all really he cares about. His boss tells him off for it though, and he like, so Tyler kind of drops it, but not really. He just kind of, he moves all of his research on them to his own like personal typewriter instead, and then continues poking around. But when he goes home, because obviously, so he goes home to like find Jayce and Viktor there because they were fixing something for his parents, and he's like, like almost like expects something to happen, but it's like nothing's going to. And then they ask because it's supposed to be like a surprise, so they don't really want to tell Tyler what they gave to Jayce and Viktor to fix, but it's supposed to be a surprise. And so they end up leaving no issue, but Tyler's like, he's suspicious. And so it's revealed because he's like looking around for it and he's like, where is it? He's like, that typewriter, like his personal typewriter. That's what they ended up giving to them to fix. And that had all of his research, all of it like in there. So it's all like everything he had on Jayce and Viktor, everything he wrote is like on there. And so I mean his parents don't understand because it's like he doesn't tell them really anything, right? So his parents is like, okay, it's not, it's fine, right? And so they think he's just kind of upset because he's like, oh, he's so obsessed because he gets like this. He's so obsessed with the stories. It basically consumes him to the point where you can kind of see as you read throughout this, it does wreck a lot of his like, it like damages a lot of his not reputation, his relationships with the people around him because he just gets so obsessed with needing to know things and then just put it out there for everyone to see because it's like it's almost like he thinks it's like his right to do it, like his right to do it, or like he's just become so obsessed with it, and it's like, what, like, you love gossiping this much, my guy? Oh my god! So for like the next week, Tyler's like extra paranoid because he's like, what if they come after me? Like, do it? Like, he's fully thinking like they're gonna like assassinate him or something. So he's like paranoid, but he still asks around about them, and he's like so like confused and like upset, and like because he's like, is everyone just under their spell? Because like no one has anything to say but like nice things about them, because it's like, yeah, they've never done anything. They in fact help all of them, because like, I mean, they're mechanics, and like they're willing to like lend a helping hand. So he's just like, but he's so set on like, no, there's something, like, why does no one talk about their strange behavior? Like, what's wrong with them, right? But it's like, nothing is wrong with them. Well, to them anyway. Like, nothing's wrong with them. But he still keeps up the facade, like, with his boss of, like, you know, like, oh, yeah, I moved on and everything. But it comes to a moment where this is where he realizes who Jayce and Viktor are, because he's talking, like, he's at home, he's with his sister and his parents, and he's talking with Lori. Or, well, Lori is talking with the parents, and they end up gifting her a typewriter that was meant to go to Tyler, but, they saw him so attached to the old one, they're just like, okay, we'll give the new one to Lori then. So Lori's really happy about it, and they're, their dad, like, their dad is still skeptical about letting Lori go to the school, right? In Piltover, right? Because it's there. Because, like, all the war that happened. So he's still kind of like, but she's like, oh, that happened so long ago. Like, it's fine. I think, like, 10 years. So it's like, it's fine. Was it 10 or years? I don't remember what they said now. But it's fine. And Tyler's like, I've never heard it. Like, what happened? And it's like, she basically explains, like, the entire plot, right? Two dudes want to change the world, whatever, right? Blah, blah, blah. They were so in love with each other. They were so in love. They were in love with each other, basically. And, like, life just kind of got in the way. And so this is where he kind of pieces it together, that, like, who they are, right? That they're two, like, they're partners. They harness magic through impossible science, and one physically changed because he's altered, and one doesn't know his love, which I love how that's how, I mean, I guess, yeah, sure, that is how Jayce is. He's like, I love him even on the brink of extinction. So he's like, they're war criminals, right? That's, and even in this moment where he's like, they're war criminals, he's still thinking about the fact of, this will make like a really good story. Not even the fact of like if they were, right? Not even thinking about the fact of, I should really tell someone, like, collect some evidence, tell someone before they maybe hurt someone. No, his first thought was, this would make a really good story. And it just shows you like where he is, like, mentally, like how he's thinking about this and how he really looks at other people. They're not people to him, they're literally just stories. It's like, that's what he first thought of when he he put it together. He's like, this make a really good story. Sir, what? So he ends up typing the entire thing out, presenting his boss, and it also gets rejected because he's like, you're going like way too far with this. And Tyler tries to argue like, it's them, it's like vague description, like it's not them, like it's, and so he ends up getting suspended for like a month because he's like, you need to just come back, and just reset yourself, right? So he gets suspended for a month. And apparently, because like he even said it, he's like, and if I find out that you're stalking someone again, it's like, you're gonna be terminated. So it's like, so this isn't even his like first offense. This is like a common, like, because like this is a common occurrence that he's become so, like, he gets so obsessed with the story that he just ends up stalking the person to find out, let me know your secrets. What the like, that's how, that's like how obsessed he is with it, that this isn't even like his first like time doing this. So during that time, he ends up working with his friend who was his ex at one point, but then unimportant. So he ends up working with, like, in the cafe that he kind of frequently visits to, the gossip. So he ends up working there just to get his mind off thing. And who ends up coming in at one point when he's working during a rainy day? Jayce and Viktor. And so he's immediately like, he locks in, right? Obsession back on. Because like as soon as he sees them, right? And as he goes like to take their order over there, he's like thinking of ways, okay, how can I confront them? Like why? Like as if he's like trying to like get it out of them. And then he ends up slipping and spilling the drink on Viktor. Like actually accidentally, not on purpose. But it works to his advantage anyway. Because he's like, oh well, let me help you, right? As like to somehow like, because you know Viktor wears bandages, so almost like to like maybe like rip off the bandages to show like, oh, the wound, but like there are no wounds, right? And so Tyler just ends up losing it, right? And his like he loses it and like screams like in front of out in the cafe, like accusing like they're warm criminals, that's who they are, and blah, blah. And Jamie rushed over. It's like, shut up, like leave. You have to like, right? So like as he calms down, he looks over at Viktor and Jayce, right? And Jayce is like, or not Jayce, Viktor is like hiding behind Jayce, and you know Viktor's in front of him, like staying like kind of like protectively because he's like, what the fuck? What is this, right? And he can see because Viktor's bandages had come undone a little bit that there are runes, no magic runes, just burn marks. That's all it is. And so he then remembers what he was told, like, you know, what he read and what he was told to about, like, again, under the little section thing where, you know, it could be, you know, criminals like running from the law, whatever, and just hiding out, or people who are seeking asylum because, you know, do they look like criminals to you? And so in that moment, he does have clarity where he's like, oh, you know, he's like, kind of, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, and, you know, he's like, just leave, right? Jamie's like, just leave. Don't come back. It's like, because this is way too far. Because, like, what are we even doing, right? But after that incident, it like it's you know it spreads around town. Obviously, a quick you know small town. So Tyler ends up fired because it's like, what are you doing, man? He ends up fired, and you know everyone in town kind of gives him bad looks because it's like, what the like you know he's like unhinged like stalker because I mean fair, and then he's like and that moment of clarity too is like gone, right? Where he'd be like, "Oh, like he feels bad," right? That moment, like, it's gone because he immediately kind of jumps to like blaming them, right? Like he's in his room and he's thinking about it. He's like, he blames them because like, why couldn't they have been honest? You know, like why couldn't they just been clear about like their background and everything? And it's like, why are you entitled to that? And why would they tell a stranger that? But you know, he's like, why couldn't they have been honest, right? Because this like again shows you where his mind is at. He's like, like Tyler would have wrote like a beautiful, emotional piece, and they would have been popular, and Tyler would have been like the star, whatever, right? Star journalist or whatever. And then it's like it just shows like where he was, like where he's at, because it's like that's what you thought about. Like again, clear that he doesn't see people as people, because it's like, what is this, my guy? So Tyler then is like, but it all makes sense. The connections, them to built over to everything that happened. So he's like, well, I'm gonna break into their house. It's like, oh my god. So he breaks into the house because, of course, he does. So he ends up like breaking into the house. He finds the box, right? He finds the box, and in it, it has like all their papers from Piltover, their prototypes, and from like Hex Tech. And so he takes this and he's like, I've done it, like, you know, everything. And then he gets knocked out because they're there. Um, and because there's like a trap. And so he's there and they tie him up, obviously. And, you know, Viktor and Jayce are like, oh, we're gonna, like, you know, change some things. We're not gonna kill you. We're gonna change some things about you, right? And, you know, Tyler tries like pleading at first because he's like, oh, well, I can keep a secret. Like, I'll leave town. He's like, we all know that's not gonna happen. Like, you're never gonna do that. And so, but they do tell him like their story, right? Of what happened, how they got here, and then he asks like, "Oh, so why you keep leaving towns because you get exposed?" It's like, no, because they're immortal, and people start questioning, like, why don't you look a certain age, like, like, oh, you don't look like you're mid-40s, like, yeah, they're immortal, they don't age, they don't, say leave every once in a while. And they so not Jayce, Viktor ends up using his powers to kind of change his memories, right? And kind of make him, he ends up using to change Tyler's memories, so he really doesn't know why he even broke in, and he's like, ugh. He's like, it's a little foggy to him. And then we kind of see the aftermath of it. Because at first, like, this is the first chapter, so we don't know really what Viktor did, but we find out in the second one, like, he has to change memories. But after we see Tyler, he's working at the cafe, everything's going great for him, and we see, our favorite couple, Javik, as they are literally called by the town. They are, they're talking, and, like, to show, like, how much he, like, truly, like, after everything has been changed, like, one of his coworkers, like, oh, what do you think they're talking about? Tyler's just like, who cares? None of my business. Like, usually be so, like, cause zeroed in. He doesn't care anymore, like, at all. And then the second chapter focuses on, from Jayce and Viktor's point of view, and what was going on when everything was going on with Tyler. We learned that Jayce and Viktor both have powers. Like, it's split between them. So while Viktor can change and erase people's memories, right? Or not Jayce, Viktor. Did I say Viktor? I don't know what I said now. Viktor can change and erase people's memories, and then Jayce can manipulate people's emotions and how they feel, take away their pain. And they think they could also do the opposite, but they've never tried, and they kind of don't want to. But so this whole chapter, like the second one, is just from their perspective. They arrive, everything's happened, how they settled down. And they get the feeling, like, kind of like, not immediately, but they do get the feeling pretty soon that's like something's wrong, right? Like something, like it's like a thorn in their side, like it's a feeling, and it's like it's a threat to them, right? Like a personal threat, like not a magical one, but still like a threat to them. So they don't know where to really start looking around, but they do. They get the feeling, and so they're in the cafe. And that's when Jayce picks up the paper and he sees one of Tyler's little pieces, right? His articles. And so just reading his name, they gives them the feeling like, oh, this is the person we're looking for. This is the person that is, like, weirdly a threat to them. In what way, they don't know, but is a threat to them. And so they kind of suddenly start asking around. And everyone kind of has the same sentiment of like, yeah, he's really driven. He gets obsessive times. He doesn't know when to stop. He's a dick, but his things were really well written, right? So it's not great. His reputation, like him as a person, he sucks. Like, but his articles are really well written, And so they kind of suddenly start asking around about him to get, they're just bringing it up, like, oh, what'd you think of the article? So they get to like one person, right? And was it Howard, right? So they get to specifically two people, but like they get to Howard. Howard is a person who Tyler, like, he does not like Tyler. He hates him because he had wrote a piece, a piece on his niece. She was a nurse. She had studied for a really long time and passed the exam. And Tyler had wrote a piece basically saying how she cheated, and that's the only way she passed. And she kind of like had to prove basically like, no, she didn't cheat. And that's when it came out like, yeah, the people that he got his sources were just people who made that up because they didn't like her. And so Tyler was forced to like make a retraction piece, but he made the piece like a retraction on like the last page, right? Because the first hit piece was like on the front page, and the retraction taking it back, being like, oh, he's misguided, like the people were misguided, he made a mistake, whatever, right? That was like on the last page where no one would ever read it. So it's like damage was done. Like, it kind of shows you how far Tyler is willing to go for a story, and how he absolutely does not care who he hurts. And because Howard goes on to explain, like, oh, he later came into my shop, I don't even know if he knew it related, but like he couldn't act on it because like one article from him would like absolutely ruin his like shop's reputation, which sucks because like he came in acting like nothing happened. It's like, yeah, I definitely didn't ruin your niece's potential career because it's like, what are you doing? Like even like cyber retractions at the back of the page, it's like no one's gonna read that. People have already drawn their conclusions, especially she doesn't deserve this or that. It's like that sucks, you know? And so, Jayce and Viktor immediately, kind of draw parallels where Viktor was a lot like Tyler, very driven, very passionate, willing to do everything. But you could at least give Viktor some excuse where it's like, okay, he was at some point corrupted by the magic, right? And he had Jayce to pull him out from that to bring him back to, all right, come back to your senses. Tyler doesn't really have that excuse. He just does his own personal desires of wanting to be the best writer or whatever, right? And worse, he doesn't have his own Jayce to pull him back from being like, okay, you're going too far, right? So he has no one to tell him that. I mean, I guess people do tell him that, but he doesn't really listen, right? No one really close to him that's like, you need to stop. So they learn all this, and then, we get to the point, like, they meet him face to face, awkward. They find all the things, and are like, we really gotta set this down, right? The whole copy incident happens, and they're like, Jesus Christ. And so they end up setting the trap, right? They dig, because the box that had all the papers and everything was really buried, like in the backyard, right? Completely fine. So they dug that up, had to put it, just like hanging in the bedroom, and then left conveniently for Tyler to come in. And then, so everything kind of plays out the same. They're explaining their story to Tyler, everything. And then we do get a glimpse of what it was like, Viktor seeing Tyler's memories, how he looks at other people. And it's almost like looking at his family, like it's distant, like he's like almost kind of removed from them. And he's like kind of bitter about it. And it's like he can't. Like, so then we get to aftermath of what happened, right? They call the police because they're like, oh my God, Tyler. Like, after obviously removing and implanting fake memories. So they're like, oh my God, he broke in and whatever. So they call the police. They don't want to press charges or anything, but they're like, what's going to happen? Like, well, because they kind of deduce like maybe he like had like a mental break, obviously, because they found hair dye in his house because they planted it there because, when Viktor goes to touch, like they get like a streak of like blonde. So gotta plant that in there. So, you know, they don't want to press charges or anything because like they know Tyler's not gonna come after them anymore. And after after that, people do give them like looks of pity because it's like, oh, you were victims, and people feel bad for Tyler. It's like, wow, he had a mental break, but it's awful still. And but this is kind of like, this is where it ends off, because it's like after this, they're finally left to, be on their own. They're left to, to live how they want to now, in peace, until they have to, inevitably pick up and move on, because the whole immortal thing. But I love this. It was such a cute, it was interesting, and to see kind of, is this technically Tyler's kind of like, I don't know if you call that an unreliable narrator, because it's like how he's very honest with himself of like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, he just sees this as like a story and nothing more. Like, he really like he's willing to admit that to himself. Doesn't care about like, oh, the townspeople, like, it's just a really good story, right? But he'll never like admit it out loud because, like, I mean, you know how that sounds. That sounds bad. So he'll at least fake it. But to see how far he'll go, and almost how he's trying to frame himself, like, oh, it's an innocent, like a little, just has to know. When it's like, no, he becomes obsessive to the point of stalking and like breaking into things. Like, that's up there, right? And so to see, I just, this whole, I mean, um, this whole fic was like a really good read, though. Is it short? It's kind of short. I don't know. It's short though, but I love it. It's really good. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!